like in America or Saudi Arabia, which investing billions into acquiring sports clubs and sports stars. They have realized that it's not merely the economy, the hard power, also the soft power is critical for lifting the profile of the nation.
In war, and you're seeing a pandemic, and how the world over, there's a debt-ridden countries, the economy is falling, there's a recession happening. But India on the other side is in growth mode. It's completely opposite.
But if we are able to give quality education to 140 crore people in this country, we have to use technology. How we use it, what are the safeguards we put, and those are questions which are yet to be answered. But expecting that there will be some village in Dantewada where you're going to get a very high quality teacher who will be wanting to spend his life over there, I think is not something that is going to happen in the next 5 years.
So I think the fact that we are proud of what we are, we are proud of what we eat, and we are proud of what we play,
Right.
I think it's a great time to demonstrate that to the world, because I think people will come here for the economy because they know it's good for them to be here. But all other facets of soft power are great advertising for India.
I think the more and more the services industry gets professionalized, you will see those skills be in demand, then education institutions coming in. So do we wait for that to happen, or do we invest in making liberal arts and some of the other fields a wider education space is what I think what's more important.
Why we are today at the forefront, and we are at the forefront, is because the world needs us. America needs us as a counterbalance to China. Russia needs us as the only friend out in the American camp that they have. We have strong leadership which can make its opinions felt around the world, whether good or bad or ugly. That we can speak our mind, and it is not because we are friends with everybody. I don't think we are friends we are not friends with our neighbors. But we've understood one thing, that let us protect our interests.
I mean, look at America also. Look at what America, I remember when I was doing my undergrad there, we were told you could never even imagine a black president or a women president. Look, the transformation.
Yeah.
So listen, the beauty is, we are sitting in a democracy, and thank God, as a country, we have preserved that, whatever we might be. And I think, I totally feel there is a change. Yes, we all want to see change, because we are living in a world where we are talking about 10x in our corporate world in 1 year, 2 years.
So, good evening, friends. A warm welcome to this first roundtable conference, as it were. Here we have to explore the topic, navigating the geopolitical turbulence, and to how to be a leader in this vortex of international politics, conflicts, particularly in India, how as corporate leaders we can leverage this and then be a leading light for the rest of the world. So may I invite you, first of all, to shed some light on the topic itself. Yeah.
Well, I got really excited listening to the earlier conversation, so I said I could come down and join in. But this is a topic which really excites me generally, because what's happening around the globe. My interest in this topic rose when I started seeing our Prime Minister going down to the remotest of the village in this country for the election campaigns. And I realized that this country is becoming more and more democratic. And there is a power which lies in the hands of people. And while on one side everybody started saying that India is going to become another China, but I think absolutely not, because we're not moving the autocratic route. We're moving very much into this democratic route. And that is a sign of the Prime Minister going that remotest places to seek the help of people, of electing him back again. And that's a brilliant sign. So I think I'm very happy to see that on a democracy perspective. But the other side is India is definitely, over the last first quarter of its independence, there was a monkey on the shoulder in terms of Pakistan. But I think that monkey is off the shoulder. because of all those that India did, and then the now the inside turmoil within the Pakistan itself. There is now another gorilla, which is China. But I think India has also now overcome that gorilla as well. And it's very much focusing on the growth of this nation and this country. And the power that people have out here and with their democracy, I think India is well up there to make a difference in the entire geopolitical perspective. So this is just a small context from my side in terms of where India really stands today in terms of its neighbor and the power that it holds, and the way the economy is moving. India is, of course, while you're seeing Ukraine war and you're seeing a pandemic and how the world over, there's a debt-ridden countries, the economy is falling, there's a recession happening. But India on the other side is in a growth mode. It's completely opposite. And that's where the opinion of the entire world is focusing on India. It is coming down here and they're all talking about us and they're saying, yes, this is a country, there's something going to happen. We're going to do something down here. And that's a brilliant sign. And so that's where my 2 cents on where India stands in the geopolitical environment. So probably love to hear from what you guys really think about it.
Aldous Huxley, sometime in the last century, remarked that light comes from the east. Now, if India is poised at a critical juncture of reaching $5 trillion economy, it needs to leverage its soft power, cultural power as well. Like in America or Saudi Arabia, which is investing billions into acquiring sports clubs and sports stars, they have realized that it's not merely the economy, the hard power, also the soft power is critical for lifting the profile of the nation. Indians gone over and then conquered the tech world in the Silicon Valley and the rest of the world. So how exactly we can ensure that our education system can really arm our children, particularly people on the margins of society, so that they also rise to the top and they are able to be light to the rest of the world? Anybody could talk on that?
So it all boils down to our culture, right? Our heritage. I mean, which I think what he just rightfully said. I mean, you look the approach, what's happening in India. I mean, we are sitting in a Gurgaon. We are in a different world out there. But actually, there is a change in the so-called, in India. There is a change. There is a new India which is emerging, very strong, full of enthusiasm. Full of feel-good factor, and I think I totally agree with you where I'm saying it is not just financial and the becoming a so-called $5 trillion economy, which nobody's going to stop us, but it is also in the same process making sure our culture is our heritage and all that is here to stay, and those value system that probably we all have, our generation have seen it. I mean, I always think that's the challenge this country we're gonna face, is how we make sure that stays as our value. I mean,
and I think just to add, I think you made a very interesting point around soft power, and I think soft power as exhibited by movies, as exhibited by sport, as exhibited by food, all of that. I think it's a good time for India to be ready for that. I think the fact that cricket is going to be played in LA Olympics, first step in that direction, right? For years you were trying to get cricket
unbelievable, yeah.
And finally the Americans need to do it because they need to shore up their viewership numbers. That's the hard fact. But great step, right? So I think it is actually refreshing to see that in mainstream India, there is a conversation around our own culture and a sense of pride in that. And I think when I used to work at Star, for many years, I don't know if all of us will also realize, but cricket broadcast was only English till 2002. Yes. 2002 is when Hindi came for the first time.
I'm not aware of it.
Right?
Wow.
And 2008 is when Star started broadcasting IPL in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Bengali, right? And if you look at it today, cricket, and it's a good meter on engagement, 8% of the consumption is in English today, right? So I think the fact that we are proud of what we are, we are proud of what we eat, and we are proud of what we play. I think it's a great time to demonstrate that to the world, because I think people will come here for the economy because they know it's good for them to be here. But all other facets of soft power are great advertising for India.
India, absolutely.
But the IPL point's a great one actually, and to the point you talk about giving opportunity, I think the number of cricketers who've gotten an opportunity to play and demonstrate their skill has multiplied significantly. The fact that every team has to have that many Indian players and only a limited number of international players. You've seen, the Rinkus of the world and all those who have probably never been spotted in the international space.
Huge opportunity.
Yeah, so I think that itself is an example how we use something which was rich in cash, BCCI, and they helped create a tournament where we got few hundred people an opportunity to play and make money and also show their talent.
Oh, absolutely. And so many cricketers. And I think, just on that point, you remember the famous Australian, India won a test match in Australia after many years, a couple of years back, right? There was only one player in that team who had not played IPL before international cricket. Otherwise, everybody had played IPL and gone and played test cricket. Pujara was the only player. Right.
So I think it's a good point, to look at creativity. A country becomes a superpower because of a creative class. Now, how exactly in India we can create a culture, an ethos, where this creative class emerges. The creative class emerges only when you have a diversity of talents. Unfortunately, in India, we focus on engineering, medicine, and a very narrow range of domains. How exactly educational institutions or policies can encourage and promote this ethos where there is a sense of dignity of labor, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're a nuclear scientist, whether you're a teacher, everything in every profession is respected, honored for the value it adds. If you have to really emerge as a superpower, a light to the rest of the world, we need to somehow imbue our children with this. For example, in the United States, a guy who is interested in photography, he could go and focus on his photography. And the parents encourage that. Another guy who is interested in horticulture, he can very well embrace that. Everything is on it. And they get paid in millions if they're really world class in that. So either this, how can we bring about this kind of cultural revolution in India?
I think it is happening, Father. Right now, I think that's happening, right? Maybe it's happening maybe in so-called in our circle, but we encourage our kids, right? If my son wants to be a chef, I'm here to encourage him, and I tell him, you better be a good chef. So I think that mindset has changed.
I think it's a natural outcome of what you call the Maslow's hierarchy at some point.
Also, the thing is, since 91, the economy has also grown. So there are enough jobs out there. If somebody wants a job which is an underfield, it's there.
It's also about professionalizing services for that matter. So because a lot of this has been unorganized, so you don't need to be trained professionally to be getting that job. Now you look at restaurants. To your point, after the economy is opened up, sort of restaurants that come in, you can't be just anyone who's worked in without having the right training to go and work in a restaurant. So that requires the right amount of education, training beyond that. So I think the more and more the services industry gets professionalized, you will see those skills be in demand, then education institutions coming in. So do we wait for that to happen, or do we invest in making liberal arts and some of the other fields a wider education space is what I think what's more important.
International relations in our own neighborhood, is a monkey on our back, Pakistan, Burma is, in the hands of junta, and Nepal is almost in the pocket of China, and Maldives already asked us, to take away, remove their army. So How exactly, first of all, India can be a light to the world by ensuring that we win over these immediate neighbors? Then if we have peace and prosperity and camaraderie in our neighborhood, I think that will really strengthen our hand, that will allow us to create a corridor. Now, the European Business Technology Center was talking about creating a trade corridor from here to the entire Europe and eventually to the United States of America.
I think, I'll add to this. In fact, there was a SARC meeting in '92, and all the heads of state who were there in the entire SARC meeting. All of them were educated in India. So whether it was Burma, whether it was Afghanistan, whether it was Pakistan, all of them had spent some years being educated in India. That has also seemed to have gone away a little bit, and we don't see India becoming this international education hub that used to be there. And probably it's time to revive that amongst educational institutions such as ours to see if we can probably go down that path as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think this. I so agree. Education, and I'll again re-emphasize soft power. Right. So, for example, if you look at the world of sport, you'll see clubs like Manchester United and Real Madrid. They do South Asian tours. Twice a year, they send their best teams just to come and play exhibition matches. There is no reason why, for example, our movie stars shouldn't be touring these countries. See, it's a very organized effort. Yeah. Because you want to showcase what you're really good at. If it's entertainment and song and dance,
so be it.
IPL match in Maldives might solve a lot of issues.
Actually, more than what any amount of diplomacy may.
Yeah, maybe Kathmandu it actually might work.
In Kathmandu it will work. Bangladesh it will work. Sri Lanka it is already working or should work. So,
and our team should also throw a couple of matches.
So I just think that I think greater awareness of what the soft power can do can be a big unlock.
Just to add to your point further, India is no more a soft power. It's there, and it's making the world listen. India and US partnership is extremely important both for US as well as for India. But same as the India and Russia relationship, which even US cannot say much about. There was a time, and if I remember correctly, during Indira Gandhi time, every fifth or the sixth girl who was born there in Russia was called Indra, just behind Indira Gandhi. Now, that is a kind of a relationship which India carries with Russia. And it is not easy to finish that relationship just because US and India has to become stronger. So India today has a very powerful statement to make, which the entire world is listening to. And everybody has to listen, whether they are together or not, but India is a friend to all. So what you're talking about, building education, building medicine, building cricket, building movies, we can all build it here in India very easily because India is friends to all. It can invite Russia, it can invite Iran. India is friends to all. There is no denying this fact. So I think India's role to answer this question on a geopolitics is very, very strongly there. And India is one of the biggest voices in the geopolitics in every account. So that's another thing to look at.
I also feel that there's a large opportunity sitting outside of where we are, which is the immediate geography. And there are some successful businesses that are getting built in Africa now, for example. Right? There are some so for example, I'm not sure if it's a widely known fact, but Bajaj is the biggest exporter of bikes to African countries and South America. Yes. They've got exports to Chile, they've got exports to Argentina. There are Bajaj the three-wheeler rickshaws, I don't know what they call rickshaws, being driven across the world.
My belief is every country has a culture, right? Sure. Pakistan has a culture, China has a culture, very strong culture. America has a culture. Every country has a culture, and they all we are embedded in our culture, and we propagate it. Why does culture prosper in any country? You answered that question to me. It's really about openness and creativity. You are creative only if you are open. You can never be creative if you are closed. And therefore, acceptance of all influences, being open, ability to listen to everything, encouraging different points of views all the time, creates a creative culture. And if you look back, why did India because every country is a brand, is a product and a brand. Why was India able to reposition itself? If you ask that question deeply, I think it is the CEOs we created outside India. One biggest factor was that people started accepting the quality that India can produce. Human quality is the biggest quality. Products is secondary. That the quality that India can produce. Why did it produce that quality? Because of the diversity in IITs. They allowed everybody to come. It wasn't, paise de ke aa jao. It was purely and these guys rose up and became what it is. Today, India is in the limelight, not so much, I believe, because of what we've achieved, that we are fantastic. It's not. Some individuals are fantastic in India, but as a country, we are still way down in most indices. We may talk a big game, but we are way down in most indices. Why we are today at the forefront, and we are at the forefront, is because the world needs us. America needs us as a counterbalance to China. Russia needs us as the only friend out in the American camp that they have. We have strong leadership which can make its opinions felt around the world, whether good or bad or ugly. That we can speak our mind, and it is not because we are friends with everybody. I don't think we are friends with we are not friends with our neighbors. But we've understood one thing, that let us protect our interest wherever it is. So the world is seeing us differently today. They are seeing us, I think, as capable, very high quality people. They are big market, so they are seeing us very differently. Today we have the ability to position ourselves very differently in the world, and it will go down. People will start believing that because of the kind of people that they see around them all over. They see, you look at Fortune 100 companies, 10% of them are Indians. The whole tech world, which is the product everybody uses. Everybody uses Google and Microsoft and Facebook, and who is it led by? It's all led by Indians. So suddenly our position in the world has changed. And now the Western world needs us even more, because all of them are united against China. All of them are united against China and Russia. So they need us. So we are in a great position. But that doesn't mean we are great. It really doesn't. Our culture is great. But then I would say every country's culture is great. Every country has a culture. Chinese culture is fantastic. Vietnamese culture is brilliant. Every country's culture is great. What we are good at, if we can, with this current repositioning of India, if we can propagate our culture, we should definitely do it, but never aggressively. I think the way we promote ourselves, it should be inclusively, accepting everything, taking everybody along. To me, that will be great about India. That will be greatness.
Absolutely.
Because it will encourage the inherent creativity which diversity brings. Creativity is all about bouncing my opinion with yours and understanding you and you understanding me, and then synthesis happens and something better and bigger appears. To me, that is fundamental. If we make more creative people, we encourage more opinions and diversity and thinking, etc., and we are strongly led at the center, I think we will progress very well.
Yeah, you're very, very rightly put in. And just to add to that, and what Father said, in investing into education and investing into diverse fields can actually help India to progress and make its mark on this geopolitical aspect. Absolutely. Yes.
You have touched upon very many critical points. Number one, creativity. Secondly, openness. Creativity flourishes only when you are open to ideas from different quarters. So that is a core strength of Indian culture, Indian ethos.
Very much.
We have always welcomed
Very much.
ideas, insights, wisdom from various quarters. The third point you touched upon was, merit is opportunity. whether it is Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai or Khosla, who went abroad and flourished because they had an opportunity. As a result, they flourished. India also provided the opportunity by setting up IIMs, IITs, where merit mattered, not so much, which class, how deep your pocket was. Now, how can this tide of growth, progress, prosperity lift all the boats, as it were?
Father, I'll say one thing to this. India also has opportunities, but opportunities we should look everywhere, because only then will they recognize India. I firmly believe that the biggest service that has been done to the country are people who've actually gone out of the country.
Exactly.
And worked there or become successful there. That is how we've been able to reposition. So this whole thing about no, be here, you owe it to the country and all is all rubbish, in my view. My view is that India should provide people who are seeking opportunity. They should provide excellence in their field. And the only way it will come is through creativity.
Absolutely. So in that case, how do we provide these opportunities to the vast majority of our people living in the hinterlands, who even a Rukshapula farmer knows English education opens door. It is a passport to prosperity.
Yes.
And in the context of privatization, vast majority are losing out. How exactly can India provide opportunity so that ultimately people embody the culture? When they move out to a place, they carry the culture there and live it out, and they become the influence or influences. So how exactly can we, our education system, provide this opportunity to the vast majority of our countrymen and women? Yeah.
We are looking at a system where a college used to be a location. College used to be a place you go to. Now, I think COVID has taught us that there are some other possibilities over here. We can actually look at technology, and we should actually be looking at how we can leverage technology. Maybe the answer lies somewhere in between, maybe a blended model. But if we are able to give quality education to 140 crore people in this country, we have to use technology. How we use it, what are the safeguards we put, and those are questions which are yet to be answered. But expecting that there will be some village in Dantewada where you're going to get a very high quality teacher who will be wanting to spend his life over there, I think is not something that is going to happen in the next 5 years. Quality and reaching it over there, the answer lies in technology for us.
You hit upon a very, very important point. In the book Upheaval, I don't remember the name of the author. He says, Japan sends the best teachers to the weakest group of students. Whereas here what happened, the best teachers go to the best students, most capable students. We are not, let's give the best to the best students. At the same time, if we have to really empower these vast millions, we need to leverage technology, absolutely important. At the same time, the early education requires the best of teachers. Teachers who will emotionally accompany them, who will invest themselves in their welfare. How can we inspire that kind of patriotism, where we celebrate patriotism, nationalism? How can we really demonstrate this in our commitment to the people on the margins who do not have the opportunity?
Is that practical, Father? So, for example, you have an investment portfolio. There are few funds which are doing well and few don't do well. Where will you put your money in? The funds that do well? Similarly, from a teacher's perspective, this all sounds great that, send the best teachers, bring up the overall average. But at the same time, are you then pushing out your goal by many, many years by investing the right resources in the right places where you'll get the best returns? What do you do in that situation?
Well, it's up to you to answer. My answer would be, while you give the best, opportunities, best human resource to the most capable students, Japanese government makes it a policy. They celebrate teachers. Only the top 10% of the graduating students can really enter teacher education. And they are given free education, they are given a stipend, and when they become teachers, they paid a very high salary, and they celebrate it in the society. If education is the foundation of any society, should we make a policy, so that what did Singapore do? It was in a worse position than India when it became, independent, and today it is ahead of the rest of the world.
But Father, I agree with you, but there is one fundamental flaw in our culture. It's fundamental. It's brought us down, and it has taught us very bad things, which is the caste system and the difference between people who are born in a privileged family and born in a poor family. We somehow, our education doesn't deal with it. Somehow we have to make people understand that everybody is equal, everybody should be given equal opportunity, and then let merit take over. But our education system, our teachers do not display that. That is a moral weakness in our culture. It's a huge weakness. Because of that, a lot of people are brought down. Only exceptionally good people who you can't stop rise up, because they you can't stop them. But most people get cut off. We frown at some jobs that people do. We treat them badly. We never encourage people from some castes or religions. We divide people on those grounds, and that is a fundamental flaw in our culture. To me, it is as damaging as the positives that we have in our culture.
Absolutely. So, if you want to be really the light on the mountaintop, if you want to be light to the world, then it's not enough merely that we recognize our strengths. We also be very brutally frank about our own weaknesses. Only then we'll really be able to emerge. And as long as a vast section of a society is struggling, ignorant, illiterate, disempowered, can we really be a light unto the world? So how exactly, as the privileged section of this society, how can we commit ourselves to ensure that caste is tackled with? It requires concerted effort in order to really root out this, system which stratifies our society and keeps vast majority oppressed, suppressed. How exactly can we? We all love our country. There is deep.
See, my view is don't expect politicians to do this because they failed. The one politician we had who propagated this was actually Mahatma Gandhi, who believed that this, and I don't think his thinking has continued in the country. It was there for a short while it lasted, but I don't think because politics wins by dividing people. It wins. Whether it's Congress or it is BJP or it is BSP, they win by dividing people. It is beyond politics. It can only come through education. It can only come if I can teach my grandchildren that no, he's not of a poor caste. He should play with you. You should bring him home. You should celebrate his differences. You should, only then, and that education must be reinforced in the homes and in schools and colleges. It is, to me, that is the biggest sort of issue with our country.
And in the urban India, probably it's still happening to an extent where from caste you're moving to economic stratas. So you will see kids dealing with, playing with friends of a typical economic background. I don't think if you talk to kids today, at least in the urban areas, they would even understand what a caste is. Yeah, but the problem is...
Even when we were growing up, we didn't understand caste. It gets to you as you grow older and older.
I think we are looking at a new caste now, and I think I'll build on what you're saying, Ritesh. So, right now, when we're looking at the professional world, we're looking at companies. Isn't there a caste system when you ask this person where he has been educated from? A DU might end up getting a preference over somebody who's from Government Engineering College, Ambikapur, and that is something which is happening very strongly. The brand name institutions tend to acquire a lot of importance in the CVs, tend to acquire a lot of importance in the way we judge people. And very quickly we are ready to stereotype them into certain pigeonholes.
But I think that's
No,
by
that will
design.
always
I mean,
happen.
Somebody pays a higher premium to study in a college so that he gets that effect.
Not a
but
premium in terms of money. But I
see,
think
it is not.
It's a quality of
believe
education.
me, it
It's a
is
product.
more about merit that you get into a better college.
Yeah.
There are, of course, you can pay your way and get it, but very few seats are like that. Most times it is about how good you are, how you study. When you top a college, when you get a great job, it is, I think, driven a lot by your inherent capability.
It's a natural
by
filter.
merit. Because you get a job, there are so many people who apply for these institutes, right? Few people get selected, but it is not on money. It is not on caste. It is not. Yes, there will be imperfections even there. I'm saying so be it. At least let us teach people. Let us teach our children that don't stratify people, don't disband people, don't dishonor people just because they come from this caste or this religion or this demography. They come from Jumhuriyat Alaiya. Don't look down on this.
So, caste is one, challenge that India is facing. The other one is politics. As deeply embedded politics is, caste also is much more deeply embedded. Politics is about power, power is about distribution of resources. Now, how exactly can we ensure that we develop a crop of statesmen, not so much politician, statesmen, through our education system, through our own consciousness of the weaknesses embedded in the caste system, in the family, in the school, in the entire system, so that statesmen emerge through our education system who will be able to grapple with this. And if we say, ultimately politics determines everything, decides everything. So how is the education system, has it failed in that sense?
No, but Father, on that, you took the example of Singapore. So if I understand correctly, what Singapore did was every ministry that was the head of that ministry was treated like a CEO. They pegged that salary to a CEO of that particular sector. By that, you're recognizing and you're taking the other incentives out of what is there. Through that, the policies, etc., which came out became more practical. So that is another way to look at it. Yes, education can do, but the fact is, if you look at around the world, this is the geopolitical topic we're saying. Every country, every market which is out there is going through an imperfection of politics right now. Next year we have elections in the US, UK and India. We know the entire world can turn upside down with what happens in those three elections. It's like you're sitting on a slot machine. Let's see all sevens come out or not.
And to add to that, I think I actually hugely agree with what he was pointing out earlier. But I don't think it's possible to change this by saying, don't believe in caste system. See, it's a bit like, how should I say, to give you an example, IPL had corruption, it fixed matches, two teams got disbanded. You can't advertise saying IPL does not have corruption. You know what I'm saying? The solution to the problem is, it doesn't work. Human beings don't react like this. My belief is there is something more fundamental which is linked to economics. The moment people have money, they don't bother about these things. The moment there is economic prosperity, crime goes down, in neighborhoods. These are well documented human behaviors. So there has to be a model around getting people and lift them in the hierarchy of things so that things like caste stop mattering. Because at the end of the day, caste is a reason for the lack of opportunities. See, when does caste come up? I didn't make it because there was a bias. I didn't get it. And bias is there. I'm not saying the bias is not there, right? But I'm not sure the solution is as simple as educating people.
I'm not saying that is the only solution. I'm saying we should start telling our kids and grandkids that this is wrong, that this is not right. Today, we are telling them that this is accepted.
We are
that
behaving.
This is the right. We are behaving.
More than telling,
we
is the
don't
actions.
say our actions make them believe that this is the right way to behave. Yeah. On the other hand, if our education teaches us that this is wrong, This is as wrong as committing a sin or stealing at somebody's house. If we make a moral point about it, we all want to be moral human beings. We all want to do the right thing. If we make it that this is wrong, this is not right, you will be punished if you do that. There is penalty to doing that. And the education system propagates that. They say, yeah, this is high. Just like what is patriotism? We have allegiance to place we belong to. They must belong to this moral world, saying that this is wrong. This is the right way to behave is to treat everybody equitably, freely, equal, and then I think there will still be problems, there will still be corruption, but at least we say in IPL that corruption is wrong. You are punished if you are caught. So that is in India we don't punish people because they do something so wrong.
Actually, casteism is the first organizational chart gone wrong.
Yes.
It started off as an organizational chart.
Exactly.
Where you do this work, this is where you cast.
Then people who were in power took over
Yeah.
and created the system which favored them.
The need of the food and shelter is so high that the casteism is going to remain there. A lot of people might say, but I'll tell you, a lot of people may say that 75% of the quota system in Bihar. I personally feel that it's a great step ahead. The reason being that the casteism is so much embedded in us that it's very difficult to remove it. The only way we can remove it by uplifting the certain caste. And the upliftment can only happen once you bring the people of a certain caste into a higher position. And when that happens, the entire community gains. And I think the best way of doing this is the quota system, especially in places like Bihar, which very much needs it.
And economics. Economics is a huge way, but people will grow better if there is nobody's pushing you down. If you are encouraging people that yes, you have that capability. If I am taught that I am not going to, for example, if my maid goes and sits on my chair, in the dining table, and I frown upon that, what are my kids going to learn?
Absolutely. The action stop. No, so brilliantly put. I think there are cases now.
I think we have to teach people. Our people should grow up thinking everybody is equal.
What you're trying to communicate is this. It's not so much teaching. Values are not taught; they are caught. They are like wires.
Yes.
Sure. Yes. So how exactly I live, how exactly I behave, how exactly I relate to, that will communicate these fundamental values. In other words, there has to be a moral awakening.
Not only that, Father, behavior, yes, but it starts with teaching. When we are taught that telling a lie is wrong, stealing somebody's thing is wrong, coveting something is wrong, there should be this business of human beings being equal has to be embedded in the country's value system.
Actually, it has to be
it's to be a moral thing.
If you ask me, it has to be both. See, I'll give you a simple example. If you go to any building in Gurgaon, if it has 6 elevators, there's 5 for residents, 1 for delivery boys.
Yeah.
Right? And if a delivery boy gets into an elevator with residents, people frown upon it. Now I'm saying simple example.
In Hyderabad, it's imposed a
simple
fine.
example.
It's a fine.
Yeah, but if you do away with things like this,
Yes.
maybe the doing sends a stronger message.
There's a different reason. The reason of having a service elevator is also because the people who are coming into a service elevator, they're coming to a workplace. The people who are using residential, it's a home.
I think the optics
so,
of it
if
is
you
not
use a workplace, then you just...
What
optics, it could be changed.
What overtakes that functional thing is this segregation.
In other words, Rajeev, it starts as a functional metric,
Exactly.
Just like the caste system started,
and then it gets stratified. So how exactly we can bring about a moral awakening in the society? That is, if you have to be really light to the world, if you have to be a country which the rest of the world look to for wisdom, for insight, for moral awakening, we need to embody that. We have, our Upanishads, our Vedas, our Mahabharata, Ramayana, all, they talk about this. How exactly can we capture this and live it out so that children automatically imbibe it?
And I want to add to that. I mean, recently, we were talking about the soft power of India. That was getting a very serious meeting in California a few days back when they were actually discussing casteism and how we have exported it to the US. Thankfully, the laws didn't end up taking place. But there's another aspect to it which is creating a lot of trouble. There is misplaced caste pride. We live in Gurgaon. How many cars have we seen with Jat boy inside or Gujar Andar or all these? I think you might say that there's nothing wrong about saying that you come from a caste which has got a great history or something like that. But the moment you say that, you're probably being unfair to the other castes who are not over there. So I think that is another place where we should be starting out at.
Also, Father, I think, I'll give you a very recent example, which I see. I run, I'm involved in an association, an industrial association. So recently there was a quota for Haryana, right? 75%. So as a community, we came very strong. And this was a political reason, right? It was all vote politics and this was being. So I think as a community, I think we need to react. The problem is, as an individual, we all talk about it. But I think we got to really take these things on a larger platform as a community. And I think as a community, we really lack when it comes to, I run a lot of association. I'm a general secretary at my industry. It's so difficult to get people on but we fought this as an association because we believe that it doesn't matter. As an individual, I could have never done this. We got few more associations together and see what happened.
Absolutely.
It was, struck down. Yeah. So I think that's what's happening in this country. So, earlier, I don't think this was happening at the pace. And I think this is where things are evolving. As a community, when we come stronger on a lot of these causes, whether it's, and it can start from where we are. I mean, it's everything, a lot of things starts from urban. People coming from villages are coming in my factories, my retail shops working. And they are all people who are seeing, my boy is seeing, so-called urban. So things will evolve. But
absolutely. Unless it takes a tribe, to raise a child as it were. So the point is, it's again a chicken and egg story. One Gandhiji, one Martin Luther King.
Sure.
Somebody has to initiate this movement, bring about this, awaken this consciousness, so that there is this kind of moral awakening. As Gandhiji put it, when you make a policy, keep the most vulnerable person in mind.
Sure.
A culture is great when it looks out for the weakest person in society. Now, I think India has a place here, that is embedded in our culture. We embrace the whole world as a family, but somehow in the bargain, somehow we are lost our way. I think this is a time we really awakened morally, ethically, and recaptured this value, and then live it out so the rest of here is a community, here is a country which I can learn from. How can we go about, how our education system, particularly management education, bring about this? Ultimately, we are going to be the leaders. How can we realize this? It's not a technological problem. Technology we can solve. It is about the fundamental technology. I say it is about life and consciousness. The fundamental technologies are. How can we, tweak this technology, re-engineer this technology so that
it's all
we
through
create
action. Again, going back to the point that if you don't call a spade, and you do not say this is not acceptable, and somebody shows that behavior, speak up. You'll speak up once, 10 people will notice it. They'll do the same thing. So that's how the chain reaction can happen.
In fact, if it becomes important for our politicians and leaders to say this at every occasion, today they say
the reverse.
Today, isn't it too important to be left to politicians?
No, I'm just saying that is the ultimate. I firmly believe this has to be taught when children are very young. It has to be reinforced in schools and reinforced in colleges. Because that is the time when right or wrong is set in your mind. By and large, we are all moral people. I don't think we intend to do what is immoral, but our behavior accepts this, and we have to call it immoral. We have to say this is the biggest hindrance to our country's growth. Agree. You cannot do this.
Agree. I mean, I think we are the cusp of seeing the first thing which is worked, which is the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. The results are there for us to see.
Yes.
That is working.
Yes.
It is a very age-old
yes,
absolutely. That has actually gone away. And why not?
And encourage people. Like you, I tell you, there are places I've been to where for every girl child who's born, they plant 100 trees, 1,000 trees. They do this. And so we have to demonstrate that somebody born in a Bhangi's family, and I'm caste-ridden, we celebrate that. Chalo, karo kuch. Those are the things that should make national discourse and should make discourse in homes and things. I think even if we change in a generation, it will be huge because we would have got rid of the biggest flaw in our culture.
But it's happening, I think.
It's too slow.
Maybe it is slow. So I'm not gonna. But I think I see the change, and I see positive. So I do see it. I mean, maybe you are right. The pace might not be. I mean, look at America also. Look at what America. I remember when I was doing my undergrad there. I mean, we were told you could never even imagine a black president or a women president. Look, the transformation. Yeah. So listen, the beauty is, we are sitting in a democracy, and thank God, as a country, we have preserved that, whatever we might be. And I think, I totally feel there is a change. Yes, we all want to see change because we are living in a world where we are talking about 10x in our corporate world in 1 year, 2 years. I mean, so I think we all have that thing, we want a quick change.
But I'll probably agree with Mr. Dhariwal that change is too slow and
maybe
it is sad.
Slow.
The reason I very recently read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, that our president was stopped to enter into a temple just because she came from a certain caste system in south of India, and it happened to the president of the country. Just imagine what can actually happen to the public in Iran. So this is a very, very recent, and then a very senior politician had to intervene to get her in and all that. But she was very clearly asked, you cannot go beyond the space. So I mean, this is very sad in terms of.
But how are you going to see? I agree with you, but this is not something which has happened just recently, right? But these are the very fundamentals. Today we hear about it, right? Because of so-called.
From a change perspective, I think the more we discuss, two strains that I can pick up. One is around empathy.
Empathy, absolutely.
You just need to. You need to instill it in people, kids, etc.
Absolutely.
Number two,
empathy.
and we were actually having a very good discussion prior to this again on AI. So leave AI aside, but I think how the world is so uncertain in the future.
Absolutely.
Right? So can you deal with randomness? And can you do it without shouting at other people or, going crazy or being empathetic? I think are important skills. And again, I'm going back to Father, the question on what can XLRI do, what can education systems do. I think if you go away from, hey, if you pay so much and get into XLRI or IIM, you will get a job worth 50 lakhs. That's the current model. Every person who comes to an MBA wants to get a good placement. That's the number one deliverable, right? Or the goal. Two, this institute equips you to handle randomness of life better or makes you more empathetic. And I'll share a very personal example. I mean, of course, I had fantastic 2 years of XLRI. My grades don't tell the story, but...
rather the grades tell the story.
One of the best courses I did was with a professor called Professor Venkat Krishna. He taught us Indian philosophy for leadership excellence. Wow. Okay. I think the most wonderful course I did. Most wonderful course. Because he taught us exactly things that you would call OB Gyan otherwise to survive at the workplace. Right? And I think if there can be more systematic content around those pieces that equips you to be more empathetic and handle the randomness of life.
Randomness of life.
Will be very, very useful. And
now that we have dwelt upon a caste system that is innovated, slowly it is, I hope, it will loosen its
Hopefully.
hold and we will be able to really lift, every citizen of
Sure.
this country. The other existential threat that we are facing is sustainability. Our Prime Minister is going to the Gulf, to address a conference. Now, this crisis is going to engulf every human being on this planet, every country on this planet. Does our curriculum, our business education, deal with it adequately? How exactly we can embed this in our curriculum? Every aspect of curriculum has to be influenced by this so that business is no longer driven by shareholder interest but stakeholders' interest. So taking into account everybody's welfare. How exactly can we go about and how can XLRI achieve this? In geopolitics, how can India stand out as an example for sustainability?
Or should I make the question a little more difficult?
Maybe then we'll answer.
Then you answer.
So do you think that there's a serious chance for XLRI to include sustainability in this curriculum till the corporate world doesn't start hiring for sustainability skills?
So the corporate world is hiring, right?
Hiring.
Hiring?
Yeah,
They're
very
looking
strong.
for,
And there are institutes
there are mandatory roles of
sustainability.
green skills. They're looking for green skills.
I think there
So
are.
ask them. They're finding a clients, standing outside their office for the ESG and sustainability.
ESG is a very, very big, very, very
And that
big
is
point.
another area which has been hugely been missed out and such an important need for the India if it has to really do very well on the global platform. So that's another key.
But
your point, sorry, but your point.
I wouldn't talk of it as a specialized skill,
Yeah.
but rather as a general skill everybody should be having.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, and to that point, there are a couple of campuses I've recently visited and spoke about sustainability. I think the most well-attended sessions. There is interest there. Their questions are right out there of the highest quality. I think it's time that it becomes a core credit rather than being an optional one.
It's a core credit with us.
Okay.
But also to take this forward, I totally agree that that's a huge. It's not just India specific; it's a worldwide world
Absolutely.
problem. One of the solutions which we should attempt, but again it cuts both ways, is how do you penalize behavior which is not sustainable? Now that may put a lot of industries and jobs at risk. Because it's a fact of life that in order to reduce price, in order to increase the market, we reduce price. In order to reduce price, we do unsustainable practices and behavior, and that creates jobs because the business grows, people's greed grows. We advertise this, and also we are unfortunately in a very bad cycle. We have to somehow break it. If we break it very strongly, then we will have mayhem in the world. For example, if we say you can't use plastic at all, you will have huge problem because everything is so. But we can certainly start penalizing. I remember when I used to go to Germany earlier, there was a huge penalty on everything which was not sustainable. So I used to work for Pepsi, and Pepsi, in the returnable, there was no one-way plastic even then in Germany. You had to have returnable plastic bottles, and for which you had to pay a deposit. And and that deposit kept on growing and growing and growing and growing, saying this is not sustainable. They were the first ones to invest in nuclear energy in the belief that that is more sustainable energy. First ones to and there the population is prepared to pay a higher price for a sustainable product. So there has to be some economic rational justifying sustainability.
So sustainability comes at a cost or inconvenience, either one of them. And I think I remember the thing that I had come to your thing at your campus. There were plastic bottles there, and I said, I'm not going to drink this. And by the time I went to the next session, these guys replaced it with glass bottles.
Yeah.
So I think if you have to call out some of those actions out, is where the demand will go down. And to your point, this can't go down overnight.
Right.
And again, you have to call out.
Yeah.
Just like in the other thing, you have to say this is wrong.
wrong.
You cannot do this. I remember I consult a company in Dubai, and I go there every month. One sudden, and every time they used to give me plastic bottles to drink water in my room. And one fine day there was no water, so I said, "Yaar, bottle le aao, pyas lagi hai." And he got me a glass of a glass and a jug of water. I said, "ये क्या हुआ?" सब CEO साहब ने कहा सब बैन हो जाएगा क्योंकि ये ठीक नहीं है. Somebody has to call it out. कि ये ठीक नहीं है, बैन कर दो.
I did that at a hotel also once. So they had plastic bottles. I remember I called the housekeeping. I said, I don't want plastic bottles.
Yeah.
No, sir, we've been asked by management to keep these here. I was like, I'll stop staying in your hotel if you don't change them.
Exactly.
Sir, for you, we'll change them. I said, that's not the point.
Exactly.
You've got to change
so, but you called it out. See, it all starts by saying this is not acceptable. ये गलत है. ये मत करो.
And to just answer your question so specifically, it is very much needed. Today, you do not have really a good resources who really understand this particular space. And in fact, we also have a small division which runs the executive search. And I was sitting with the APAC head of a large consulting firm who runs the ESG practice. And we were generally chit-chatting, and there was so much of a struggle to find good partners, good people in this particular space, because no educational institution is really, talking about this subject as a really being the way it should be spoken about.
A few hundred hours of work is making a subject matter expert.
So just to answer your question,
at least on
very much yes.
At least on executive education, the small programs you can do, but it has to be 360 degrees. You have to call out the problems that it will create also.
Yeah. Precisely. In other words, we think big and start small. Maybe replacing the plastic bottle with bottle. Should we revisit the entire economic system at the same time? Have a complete overhaul of the economic system. Understand at least, we cannot unsustainably degrade the environment hoping to make our life better and better. Is it possible? Only cancer can grow in an unbridled way. How do we, as Mahatma Gandhi said, this earth has enough for everybody's need, but not everybody's greed. Yeah. Should we revisit the entire economic system whereby we minimize the wants? I mean, all sages here have spoken about it. We can find it in Upanishads, in Vedas. Mahatma Gandhi has spoken about it. Environmentalists speak about it. Minimalism is, gaining ground. So, should we scale down our wants? How do we
Father, the whole world celebrates billionaires and people who create excesses or who have excesses, excessive need. We have to somehow create alternate heroes. We have to create alternate, like there was a time when sages were heroes. There was a time when philosophers and they were celebrated. They were treated. We have to create.
In other words, we get what we celebrate.
Right.
How can we, in our families, in our schools, in our colleges, celebrate minimalism, curtailing our wants? Only our needs, not so much, running after wants. How do we go about it? Jeff Bezos, builds a yacht for $500 million and immediately goes gaga over that. Once Ambani puts up antil, immediately everybody is awestruck. How do we go about celebrating minimalism? That's why Gandhiji, when he found a worker struggling in the scorching sun, only in the loincloth, he adopted that the rest of his life.
I have a slightly a different viewpoint on this. I feel when a rich person becomes richer, it helps the economy in a brilliant way. I'm in a much more favor of becoming a rich person, becoming richer and celebrating that, rather than a rich person doing a philanthropy and giving it to an NGO, because that's not really helping. But if he is building Italia, He's giving
Creating.
jobs to almost a lakh of people and a regular. And I think that should be celebrated. And I would actually celebrate a rich becoming richer and celebrating it rather than simply leading in a more simplistic way, because that's not really helping what India needs today. I want more rich people coming out of India. I want to see them celebrating it more. And you would see this, that it's going to help the economy of the country.
Great.
So just a small...
No, it's not that. You've taken thing a little out of context, I think. I think the celebration of rich people is the only celebration we do.
Yes.
I'm saying we should start celebrating even people
Yeah.
who lead a
Yeah.
hugely I come from a religion which is minimalistic to the core. I'm a Jain. And what does Jainism teach you? That all your desires, all your wants come karte jao to, and the final goal of life is you leave everything, you drop everything. But does that stop Jains from doing excess? The most excesses are done by Ambani, Adani, all these guys. Well, they are the most excessive, they do that. So I don't think it is only about, but we celebrate them. And so it propagates this.
No, I get it what you're saying.
I think the piece which could help is circularity. In terms of you don't need anything, can somebody else use it rather than producing it again? So it can take care of your wants where you want to acquire, but there is this entire thing of pre-owned, pre-loved, or whatever you call it. That could help meet wants at the same time save resources.
Actually, that's a great point.
Very good point, really.
That's a great point.
The more whatever you don't need, you give it away, because our needs change over time,
Exactly.
right? There are so many things which
How
are...
many things in your wardrobe do you wear or you don't wear?
So if somebody could just celebrate that, it will create a sustainable world.
And actually, there are very strong economic models on
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
For example, cars we all know. But I think in
Car
US,
batteries also.
in US now, sneakers are a big thing. They're called pre-loved. People sell them, and somebody is willing to pay half the price.
Yeah.
Great.
Shared economy or rental economy also.
Yeah.
Even
Absolutely.
wedding gowns,
Subscription,
you can rent.
absolutely.
So it becomes even
Absolutely.
So it's changing the mindset, I guess, of me owning something new versus me getting what I want from the product.
Versus using something as you need.
Yeah.
No, this whole pre-owned, celebrating that, I'm fine with that. There's no stigma attached to...
So I have a kid who's 19, she's studying in the UK. She goes to these vintage shops to buy things which people have worn before. My mind is, why are you buying something somebody's worn before? But the fact is, this generation is accepting that.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I think I can see a discernible shift in the attitude of the youngster. At least they have become conscious that this planet is no longer sustainable if we continue with these excesses, because it's a finite planet. Though it may look infinite in some resources, but it is finite ultimately. We are going to exhaust all the natural resources available. Education should drive home this point, that the Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, has a story where the Prajapati, his 3 children, Devas, Asuras, and humans, at the end of the education system, the approach, please give us a parting wisdom. And Devas approach, first approach, Prajapati, and he says, be compassionate, feel for others. He utters the syllable da and then asks, what do you understand by this? He says, it means damyata, be compassionate. He says, you understood. You have all the education necessary. Go out into the world. You will be fulfilled.
They got good grades.
Then comes, the asuras, and they ask, please give us a parting wisdom. And he utters the same da. What does it mean? How do you understand it? It means control yourselves. Control yourself. Finally, the humans approach. Please give us a parting wisdom. And Prajapati utters the same syllable, nada, and he asks, how do you understand this? It means give. So I think our Vedas, Upanishads have enough. Control yourself, be compassionate instead of grabbing and give. If our education system where XLRI can impart, this kind of wisdom of sharing, being compassionate and giving and controlling ourselves, controlling our wants and satisfying our needs, I think then this world will be sustainable, it will be a happy, prosperous, and equitable place for every human being on this planet. So thank you very much for all your wisdom.
I think this is a brilliant note to end the conversation.
Thank you.
But Father, I have a request. Can somebody drop a business model which basically says you maximize yourself by giving? Because I think there is a model.
Beautiful.
If I don't use the furniture, or I've got too many shirts, I don't use it. How do I maximize of myself, not the world? How do I maximize myself by giving to somebody?
Beautiful. I mean, I think one of the key insights. So, normally maximize your profit, maximize your fulfillment. It
By
is in
giving.
self-interest. By giving, you get fulfilled.